Who is the strongest? Which character is the most overpowered? This is a question that we get in every single game that has unique characters with special abilities, strengths, and weaknesses, and Paladins is going to be no different. So this afternoon, as part of an upcoming paid promotion with High Risk Studios, I did a little training session for Paladins. We've got a tournament that we're going to be participating in next week with some other YouTubers and Twitch personalities, and I wanted to get ready. I really wanted to know what I'm doing so that I can kick some butt in this tournament. Now, in this process, I've really got I feel like a decent feel for who some of the stronger characters are in the game at the moment. This was not only characters who, on a regular basis, would do really well against me, but characters that I also performed very well with. And there's 4 of them that really stand out in my mind at the moment that I spent a bunch of time with. There's actually a 5th one that I believe to be really strong as well, but I didn't play too much of her. But let's focus on the ones that I did play. So first off, we have got Eevee, a very glass cannon-y mobile mage. She's called the Winter Witch, and she is basically like an ice mage. Her left click, her basic attack, is a slow-moving projectile that does tremendous damage. So because it's slow-moving, it's going to be easier for you to hit at close distances and much harder at further distances because you have to account for that travel time. In that way, her projectile almost functions like a rocket launcher. I don't believe it has much of a radius, explosion radius, if any at all. It's just still, it's heavy hitting and it's slow moving, and that's how you have to kind of think of it. Beyond that, she's also got an ice block ability, making her invulnerable to incoming damage, and then I had some cards and stuff that let me heal up from that. And she's got 2 mobility skills. They're Soar, which you hop upon your mechanical broomstick and you can go anywhere, vertically, horizontally, at an increased speed, making you very maneuverable. And then she also just has a straight up blink. And her ultimate is Ice Storm, which will shoot out a projectile that damages and slows enemies inside. So you can see with all of these abilities, very much so like an ice mage. She's got the defensive ice block. If you get in a hairy situation and you need to wait for cooldowns to come back up, you just pop that, and then 2 movement skills. And she needs these things because at her base, she's pretty squishy. She isn't one of the tankier characters. In fact, pretty much everyone that we're looking at today could more or less be described as somewhat of a glass cannon. Eevee, probably one of my favorites of the 4 characters. I love her maneuverability. I love how heavy hitting her left click is, but again, because of that projectile speed, it makes her a little less lethal at a longer distance, since it's really kind of easy for people to dodge that projectile, and it's a lot harder for you to hit with it. The next character that I want to take a look at, he ranks up there in the badassery scale, and that is Androxus, the God Slayer. So again, kind of glass cannon-y. He's a little bit tankier than Eevee is, but the thing that I like about him is his damage feels much more consistent. Because you're firing bullets, there's not much of a travel speed. You shoot, it's gonna hit whatever you're pointed at, basically. And he's got 2 firing methods. First is left click, which does a little bit more damage, but has got a slower attack speed. And then there is his right click, which will fan 3 rounds very quickly, and then you can do it again because there's 6 rounds in the chamber that you have total, or whatever, I don't know what it's called. People always got the chamber, the clip, the magazine, I don't know, guns. Anyways, you got 6 rounds total before you have to reload, and you can fan 3 of those at a time. So that makes him versatile. He seems to be pretty strong at a medium to long range with the left click, but then also able to hold his own with that fanning as a right click. Now he's got an interesting maneuverability skill where he can go vertically or in any direction with his nether step, and you can cast that multiple times within a short duration. I think it starts off as 2, and then you can either get cards, or I don't know if when it levels up you can eventually go to 3, but at its base it is 2 dashes that you can do. And then you also kind of float in the air while you're doing this, so you've got a little bit of a slow fall applied after you do those dashes. And then he's got this interesting mechanic of reversal where for a couple of seconds he will put his hands up and absorb incoming damage and then reflect it back out. So basically if you're getting a bunch of the enemy team focusing you, if you don't have your dash ability, your nether step, you can just suck those bullets up and then shoot that back out at an enemy after a couple of seconds of absorbing. Now his ultimate is a cursed aim. It's good, but it's also really put me in some really junky situations. I think it's something you have to be very careful about when you use it. What basically will happen is it'll freeze him in air. So you'll do something like double jump or whatever, double dash with another step into the air to get a good bird's eye view, activate your ultimate accursed aim, and it's gonna freeze you up there. You're just going to be sitting up there while you shoot it. And it essentially turns his gun into a grenade launcher, which will deal a lot of damage in a radius. So you could just fire down upon a group of enemies or at an escaping enemy to just get a lot of burst damage down. But because you're frozen up in the air, you're a target up there. It's easy for people to look up and start shooting at you. So you really got to be careful about your positioning and when you use it. It's definitely, I would say, probably an ultimate that takes a little bit more skill to use because of that vulnerability that you put yourself in. But overall, he feels really strong if you want to kind of play a mid-range character that still has some close-range strength. Next up, we have got Ying, and aside from Eevee, she was probably my second favorite champion in terms of just her kit, but also her strength. I really like the way that she feels. She feels very, very strong to me. A lot of that comes down just to her left click. This illusionary mirror that she shoots out a significant amount of damage that sort of operates in ticks. I don't know the exact number, but basically it fires out in a direct beam, but they deal damage in ticks. So the longer you're on target within this like 1 to 1.5 second pulse as it shoots out, the more damage that you're going to do. In fact, there was even, I think it was a card that I got that if you hit all of the hits from it, all of the ticks, then you get an extra bonus 200 damage, which was really awesome. So that is that. I really like her left click. It just feels really strong, especially if you can maintain your aim. But you can also summon illusions, and this is really cool because this plays into another one of her abilities, which is Dimensional Link. So the illusions you'll put down in set locations, you start off being able to place 2 at a time, and they'll just stand there and shoot at enemies that come within their range. Now, you can put these anywhere, and when you have them down, you then have your movement ability, Dimensional Shift, which will swap locations with the furthest illusion. So you can really set up these really cool situations where you put up one of the illusions behind an objective that you're about to move into and attack some enemies, all right? You shoot at them, you use your very strong illusionary mirror, and then when things get hairy, you just dimensional shift to your illusion that's in a safe position. Now, because you can have multiple illusions out, dimensional shift, not only will those multiple illusions attack anyone that gets close to them, but then with dimensional shift, within the period of 4 seconds, you can continue to activate it. So if you have them placed, if you have your 2 illusions placed in like very different and spread out directions, you can teleport to one, and if the enemy is still finds you there, within the next 4 seconds, you teleport to the next one. It just makes you very hard to track. You'll be all over the place, which is, it's a very cool mechanic, placing the illusions and then shifting to multiple ones of them. Now, she also has an additional damage mechanic in Shatter, which lets her shatter all active illusions after a 2.5 second delay, which will deal area damage around them. Now, those illusions are those copies, those mirrors that you summon, but then there's also her ultimate illusionary rift, and what this does, it summons an illusionary prism on all enemy players in the map, which confuses them, which makes them think that their allies are actually their enemies. So what this does is it reveals all of the enemy locations, it confuses them, mixing up like they see allies as enemies essentially, but then these count as illusions, which you can either teleport to or use your shatter to pop. So you could activate your ultimate, put up these illusionary rifts on all enemies, see where they are, and then immediately pop them, dealing area damage. This would be especially strong if you've got the entire enemy team grouped up really close. You put illusionary rifts on all of them, pop it right away, and if they don't get out of the range, you're going to take a bunch of burst damage very quickly. Overall, between summoning illusions, the strength of her left click, the ability to blink between all those illusions, and then that ultimate, this is one of my favorite characters. She feels incredibly strong. And then lastly, the final character, the final champion that I want to talk about is probably in my opinion, the strongest right now, unless she's hard. There's cards that can counter her strength, but she almost seems broken right now, and that's Skye. So Skye has a couple of, she doesn't have any movement abilities, but she's got the ability to go invisible and put down a smoke screen, making it hard for enemies to see you. Her real strength, though, is her poison bolt, which is her right click. So she has got a left click attack, which will shoot out bolts, which deal, I think around, it's between 100 and 200 damage. Then she's got her poison bolts, which is her right click. And these apply damage over time. And then with certain cards, you can increase the amount of stacks of that damage over time. I think up to 9 stacks over the base, which is 5, I believe. And then you can also increase the duration which that damage over time stays on the target. With those types of cards, it is literally, I right click a couple of times on an enemy, apply 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 stacks of poison, and then I just ignore them, because they're going to have so much damage ticking away, especially those lighter targets, the snipers, the glass cannon targets. Couple of stacks of that poison, and they're pretty screwed. Like, there's not much that they're going to be able to do. Plus, there's the fact that you can go invisible. You've got the smoke screen you can toss down, making it hard for enemies to see you. And her ultimate is pretty cool. It's a toxic time bomb. You put it down, and then it's got a really large diameter, in which anyone after a few seconds it explodes, dealing 1200 damage, which is a lot, but it's really its diameter that's so strong. And especially when the fights are going on and things are hectic, you can like invisible in the middle of a group, drop the bomb, and then like smoke screen and run out safely. And if they're not paying attention and they sit in that bomb, I mean, that's enough to take out over half of the health of some of the lighter health targets. And then plus you apply the bleeding, the damage over time stacks. It's insane. Now, again, she can be pretty hard countered by these cards that reduce damage over time effects. People have to have that in their kit and be planning to use it. In fact, it has been my experience that anytime I played anyone remotely squishy, if they had a Skye on their team, I would just keep dying, because I didn't have that card at the time. I mean, her damage over time can be rather insane. She wasn't the most fun champion to play, but she definitely felt like one of the stronger ones at the moment. I've heard tale that she might be getting nerfed a little bit. Her damage over time might be considered a little too strong. But yeah, it felt pretty strong. Now, again, this is all just from my personal play experience. I've only played maybe 6 to 10 hours of this game so far, but she's good. She seems pretty damn good. And again, those are the 4 that I think are right now some of the stronger champions in my experience here in Paladins. Of course, the game is still in development. It's not near ready quite yet, and there's going to be a lot of changes. We expect changes coming up, but right now, if I were to pick a tier of sort of stronger heroes, these 4 would be at the top of the list. And the one that I didn't play much of, but I also feel and have been told is very strong, is Cassie, and she's kind of the elvish archer character. She seems pretty good as well, but I haven't had too much play experience with her. Alright guys, well that is going to do it for this video. Thanks so much for hanging out with me as I talk about the overpowered characters in Paladins, or the ones that I feel are pretty damn good. Again, this is all part of a paid promotion of Paladins, courtesy of High-Res Studios, so shout out to them. And as always with this kind of stuff, thanks to you guys for making this sort of stuff possible. Now, we're going to be doing a tournament next week, as I mentioned, with some other YouTubers and Twitch people, and I'm going to try to make sure we kick some butt. I'm going to get in some more practice, continue to play with these strong champions, and see if we can pull out a victory. That's the plan anyways. Thanks guys so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoy the content, and as always, until next time, I'll see you later.